Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Missouri Association for College Admission Counseling Virtual College Fair. This session is all about college planning 101. Before we get started, we do have a few housekeeping items to note. First, if you have any questions at all, feel free to submit those through the Q&A. Our representatives are here to answer any questions that you have at any time through the Q&A. Your camera and microphone are off. You are muted and your video is off. The panelists can't see or hear you. Feel free to sign up for more sessions. This is one of many virtual college fairs for Missouri that is happening, so feel free to sign up for more where you signed up for this one. And lastly, this recording will be available a week from today. All sessions are being recorded and will be available at strivescan.com/Missouri. So at this point, I'll get out of the way and introduce our host, Jamie from the University of Memphis, to kick us off.
Right, well, thank you. And gonna have to give me just a minute. My screen share is acting up for a minute. Let's see here. All right. Sorry, everybody. Short delay, but we are happy that you're here with us this evening. And we are excited to present this College Planning 101 session. Gotta do one more thing. All right, there we go. Let me jump back in here. So College Planning 101, let me go back. I'm sorry. Let's see here. New share, stop share. All right, we're getting there. Don't worry, we got time. All right, you present. Now we're rolling. Okay, now I'm ready. So thank you for joining us this evening. We are really excited to be here. We have a wealth of knowledge to share with you on this topic. And as was mentioned before, this session is being recorded. So while you're welcome to take notes, you're going to have a chance to go back later and listen to our answers because some of them are really detailed. And although we're going to cover a variety of questions, please use that Q&A function to submit your questions because we do want to make sure that we address those that are on your mind. So on this topic, we realize that determining which college is the best fit for your goals, your personality, your academic profile, your budget, it can be exciting on some days. And it can be very overwhelming on other days. So during this session, we're going to answer a series of questions that hopefully will help you navigate this process. And I really want to take a moment now to introduce you to your very knowledgeable college panel. I'll start with myself. My name is Jamie Staggs. I am a regional admissions counselor for the University of Memphis, but I live in the Metro St. Louis area. I've been a college admissions counselor for 21 years. In addition to Memphis, I also worked for Western Illinois University and the University of Central Arkansas. Darren, your turn.
Hello, everyone. I'm here with my just shy of 2 years old. So if I seem a little distracted, that's it. I am with Rockhurst High School over in the Kansas City area. This is my third year, and I was with for 4 years before that, I was with Truman State.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chat Leonard. I'm the Director of College Counseling at Metro Academic and Classical High School. That's a mouthful. I always love saying that. It's right down the street from St. Louis University. This is my 11th year at Metro. Before that, I spent 15 years as college counselor at Clayton High School in Clayton, Missouri. And I've been doing college counseling over 30 years. So let's just leave it at that.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aaron Cook, and I'm with the University of Missouri, or Mizzou Admissions. This is my 16th year in higher ed. I've been with Mizzou the entire time. I was with the School of Medicine to begin my career with Mizzou, and then transferred to the Trulaske College of Business in a recruitment role, and then came to the Office of Admissions. I've been a regional admissions rep for 7 years. The first 5 years I was in Houston, Texas. So working with the south part of Texas. And then I had the fortune of moving back home to Kansas City getting to hang out with people like Darren here in the Kansas City metro area. So I'm glad to be here tonight. Thanks.
Hey, so what we want to do is, for the bulk of this session, we want to share a variety of questions with you that we commonly get from students who are going through the same process and the same steps that you are. And so hopefully, as we answer these questions, it addresses a lot of your concerns too. But again, feel free to use that Q&A function to submit questions to us. So at this point, I'm going to start throwing out questions to our panel so that you can hear their expertise. So number one, should I take the ACT or SAT? We hear that quite a bit. Darren, would you like to answer this one?
Yeah, ultimately, I don't think it matters a whole lot. It just kind of comes down to a personal preference for some. I think that there are pros and cons to both, just like anything out there. The big difference is that the ACT does have a science portion specifically. So if you find that you're a really strong science student, that may be the route to go. Half the test on the SAT is dedicated to math. So if you're a really strong math student, maybe the SAT is the way to go. I think taking practice test is a good plan first before you dedicate that money to doing the real test and kind of locking that down. So make sure that you do some of that research leading up to it. But ultimately on the college side of things, it doesn't play a huge role. Just whichever one you do the best that you can.
Thank you. And I know a lot of students are preparing to take the ACT this month, very soon. Maybe as well. So the next question we have, and we often hear, is if a student tells us they only have like 3 or 4 hours, that's it, to spend on a college campus, and they're trying to figure out if it's the best fit for them, what is the best use of their time if they only have 3 to 4 hours? Aaron, can you address this?
Yeah, absolutely. We do get this question almost on a daily basis, and we talk to parents and we talk to guidance counselors and we talk to students about what they should see. And I would say, first of all, start with the appointment making process. And when you call or when you go online, try to get the information that you're going to see when you go on campus. So is that an overview presentation? Is that a campus tour? You can probably count on the campus tour taking you to the hot spots that they want you to see, obviously, on campus. But I really think it's really important to think about what's important to you. So if major is the number one criteria, you probably want to try to talk to that major when you go to a campus visit. If you are a huge tennis player or you love to play golf, go check out the golf course, go check out tennis, because you are going to live on this campus as well. So it's not all about the classroom. I always encourage students also to go where our students hang out. Just observe them, be a fly on the wall and watch what they're doing, watch how they navigate, watch who they hang out with, just to see if you could see yourself in their shoes in 12 months to 18 months later, and then be happy being home for 4 or 5 years.
Thank you. All excellent advice. And, our example was you only have 3 to 4 hours. If you have 7 to 8 hours, if you have a day or two, make the most of whatever time you do have to visit that campus. Oh, and always know you can come back more than once, okay? The college campuses do welcome that. We don't limit you on one visit. And so it may take 2 or 3 visits for you to really get a good feel as to if this is your right fit. So another question, this is a big, with thousands of colleges in the United States, how does a student go about finding their perfect school? Chat, can you share some advice?
Wow, that is a great question. I don't know if a perfect college actually exists except in one's mind or one's perception, because the process isn't perfect. You as students, you're constantly changing your mind, you're evolving, you're maturing. What's important one day may not be important another day, you're undecided. So the process isn't perfect. I find that usually when I work with students who are looking for that perfect college, they usually fall into 2 categories. One is the checklister. They have a number of criteria, and every school, to make it on that list, must meet that, that checklist. If not, they don't even make it on the list. And don't laugh, you probably know some of your friends who are checklisters. Matter of fact, you're probably a checklister yourself because you're attending this session. College Planning 101, I can check that off. Another category I usually find when I'm working with students is the student who's obsessing or hyper fixated on that one school. That is my dream school. I've got to get into this school. If I don't get into the school, it's all over. I'll never go to college. I can't go on. And I find that it's like, well, that's okay to have a dream school or a reach school, but keep an open mind about some other possibilities. You don't want to put your eggs in that proverbial, basket. And then if you don't get in, you're really disappointed. So if that school doesn't meet 10 of your criteria, if it meets 6 of your criteria, that ain't all bad. Just keep an open mind and be flexible.
All right, great advice. Another question that we received, how many colleges should a student apply to? And I'll take this one. I've heard of students this year even who applied to one single university. And then I know a couple who applied to upward of 30 different colleges. And really those two examples are not good. You need to apply to more than one college, okay? You need to find a couple, maybe 2 or 3 that are a really good fit. Maybe they do check several of those boxes off for you, not all 10, but like 6 or so. And then you can have that reach school. Have 1 or 2 that are reach. Maybe if they're reach because they're a little further from home, or the academic profile, or just something about them makes it a little more of a reach. And then I always stress, have a backup plan. Have a college that you apply to that's just a good, comfortable backup plan. And so I usually advise students to apply to about 5. Okay, I feel like that's safe. It's not too many, but it's not too few. And so that would be my advice. That doesn't mean you can't apply for a little more, a little less, but keep that in mind. Okay. Another question, what are the differences in college application type? There's a lot out there. Darren, can you tell us more about the different types of college applications?
Yes, I can. So there's quite a variety. There's ED, which is early decision, EA, which is early action. There's REA, which is restrictive early action. Oh, sorry, she's losing it a little bit. Then there's RD, which is regular decision, which tends to be more of your like January timeline. Rolling means you can apply anytime throughout the year. There's all these different things that basically just refer to different timelines. Early decision is the big one that really locks you in to a specific school. And if you apply early decision, that means you're only applying for that one school. And if you get in, you know you're going. And then early action is super common. It literally just means you're applying early. And I highly recommend doing that if you're interested in a school, because it kind of shows that next level of interest. Then, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to hand it off.
No problem. We got you. Yeah. So what you guys are going to encounter when you apply to colleges is that we do have different processes. We do have different types of applications. And like I said, you can always go back to this and read it again. Never hesitate to reach out to the admissions office and your college or career counselor to get a little more advice if you don't understand what type of admission process you're going through. And like I'm a rolling admission, basically we start admitting students August 1st of their senior year, all the way through May or August of the next year. So it's almost a full year. That's rolling admissions. And we let them know like every 2 weeks if they've been admitted. So they don't have there's not a lot of drama. It's rolling admissions, but there's lots of different types. Okay. So never hesitate to ask for clarification too. Okay. Another question that we get is, how can students acquire the most accurate and useful information about colleges? And I know there's been times when I go into a high school and a student tells me something, I'm like, where did you hear that from? So, Erin, can you share some advice on the ways they should go about getting accurate information?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is actually one area that the pandemic has actually helped students in some ways, where there's those old methods of, again, getting on campus and getting in front of a rep when they visit Rockhurst or Metro High School, going to college fairs. We know those old-timey traditions now that we hope to get back to someday. Those are still there. But we know that there is a brand new tool belt of online research and tools that we want students to use. Don't forget the awesome guidance and college counselors we have within high schools. They've been around for obviously years, and they can help students with a lot of the questions they may have as well. I think one of the really important things to think about what technology has done for the college search is it's brought current students to you. So it's much easier for Jamie or myself to get Memphis Tigers or Mizzou Tigers to talk to you as a high school student, because they're not traveling to Kansas City where I am or St. Louis where Jamie is. So I think it's really important to keep in mind that anytime you have the opportunity to interact with a current student, that's going to be king. I think one that may shock students on my advice is be very careful when you look at rankings. And what I mean by this is that University of Memphis, University of Missouri, they don't change really at all year to year, but yet their rankings could. So why is that? I really would recommend, and I'll put a website up for you in the chat room, going to iPads and actually looking at real numbers side by side if you really want to make some real comparisons. But again, you really do have to kind of avoid that trap of rankings, because you really have to understand how that ranking is skewed for what the outcome is or looking for there as well. But again, in person, virtual, anything you can do to interact with the current student are going to be king this year or next year for you as well.
Yeah, that has been fabulous. I know, like, if I have a virtual event in Chicago, I invite a current Memphis students from Chicago, and same thing with St. Louis and vice versa. It has been great for them to connect. And students, sometimes you can ask a college for certain things like that, and we'll do our best to accommodate your wishes if we can, okay? A question that came in via the chat is, we have a student on that's listening, and they're a freshman, and they kind of want to know, what do they need to be doing now as a freshman? And so, chat, do you want to share a little advice on that? And then I have another question I'd love to ask you too.
Okay, I would say as freshmen, the first and most important thing you need to do is to focus on your grades and keep your grades up. And this is the time to make an impact, a wow factor on your grades, and start establishing really, really strong study habits, and be disciplined. And it's also a time to experiment in terms of clubs and activities. And I know that during the time of virtual learning, that's a little difficult to do, but I have faith that we're going to get back to normal. And don't be locked into a specific activity with a specific group of students. Try different things, allow yourself to experiment, and you may be surprised that you end up joining a club or activity that you didn't think that you would like, but you do like, and you stay with that club or activity for the next 3 years. I would say that what you need to do is this year experiment, but in the future, you might want to think about the 2 or 3 clubs and activities that you really want to focus on and take those to the highest level.
Very good. She's exactly right too. And really, it's stressing for you to focus on your grades, because you have to realize when you apply to college, all we can see is your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, or junior year. We don't actually get to see your senior year, and we're trying to admit you on that. So you bet that freshman year has an influence. Okay, so do your best every year. Another question is, what strategies do you recommend students use to narrow their list of potential colleges? So chat, can you tell us more and share some advice on that?
Oh, there's so much information out there. But I tell students, I advise students to think about these certain criteria. Think about the size of the school, location, major programs, admission requirements, and then cost. So what do I mean by the size of the school? I'm not talking about the size of the campus. I'm talking about the undergraduate population, not the med school, not the law school. Usually those students aren't staying on campus and they're not joining the clubs and activities and they're not impacting everyday life. So, there are some students who really want a really active social scene and an active Greek life, and they want to attend football games and basketball games with thousands of students. I don't know what that's going to look like in the future. A large school might be better for them. However, there are some students who may prefer a smaller undergraduate population. So for example, if you like the idea of taking Psychology 101 and then the professor second semester asking if you would like to be a research assistant, and that's a wow factor, then you may prefer a smaller school. It doesn't mean that that can't happen at a larger university, but you may have to be more proactive. So one is not better than the other. It's just what's the right size for you. And I would advise, visiting different types of schools in your area, whether it's Rockhurst University, which is considered a small school, the University of Missouri, Kansas City, which is considered a medium-sized school, Mizzou, which is considered a large school. You don't have to go very far. Think of location. And we have some wonderful schools in Missouri, and we have some fabulous schools in the Midwest. But sometimes, many times at Metro, students want to matriculate out of state. And there are times that they want to maybe pursue a major that is not really a major that's offered a lot. Example, if you're interested in marine biology, a student may want to look on the East Coast, West Coast, or Gulf Coast. So think about the location and have that dialogue with your parents and ask them how far that you're allowed to, look at colleges or matriculate to college. That's very important to keep your parents in the loop. Think about major programs. And when I have my college meetings with juniors, I always say that this is not the meeting where we're deciding on exactly what you're going to major in college. I do ask for maybe 2 or 3 interests that they have. But I say keep an open mind, because one of the most popular majors for students would be undecided. I think it's labeled 999. A lot of times you may think that you're interested in pre-med and then you take organic chemistry and it's like, maybe pre-med isn't for me. And then you sit in Professor Einstein's class on political theory, and before you know it, you're interested in being a political science major. So keep an open mind. You're not locked in at this point. Think about admission requirements or admissibility. You may have a dream school, but those schools do have their admission requirements. And just because you live in the state of Missouri doesn't mean that you're absolutely going to be admitted to Missouri State or the University of Missouri Columbia or WashU or St. Louis U. So you need to research that, and you need to make sure that your academic profile is a good match or close enough to that school's. And then I would say, think about cost last. And I'm sure that my colleagues on the college side would agree with me. When you look at the cost of colleges, whether they're public or private, it's like, oh my gosh, my family will never be able to afford that. And usually that's the sticker price, and most families, unless they're very rich, very wealthy, they don't pay that sticker price. There's need and there's merit-based financial aid. So we want you to apply to the school, definitely apply for financial aid and see, what works out. If you don't apply to the school, and you don't apply for financial aid, you never know, number one, if you're going to be admitted, or number two, how much financial support you're going to get. So size, location, major programs, admission requirements, and cost.
Perfect. And for those of you listening, this is again why I mentioned that it's being recorded, so that if you want to go back and hear that criteria and that advice that she has shared with you, you can. because that was a lot of great tips and recommendations. One of the things she mentioned that I just want to reiterate, because I do get this question quite a bit, is it better to stay in state or consider out-of-state colleges? And she mentioned it. If you noticed in my introduction, I've only worked at out-of-state universities, none of which have been in Missouri. So I hear this quite a bit. And a lot of times when I'm in a high school with a student, I really encourage them to do a little self-reflection. What do they need to be successful? Do they need to be close to home where their family and friends are there to encourage them on a nightly or weekly basis and actually see them and have that interaction? Or are they okay? Are they more independent? Are they more self-motivated? Are they going to do fine if they're 3, 4, 10 hours away from home? And you really do need to do some self-reflection, be honest with yourself as to how far away you are comfortable. Then the next question I usually get, is it more expensive? I get that all the time. The answer is, it depends. My cost per year is going to be very similar to a Missouri State school, but there is going to be some additional travel expense because I am a little further away from home. So you're just going to have to do your homework with the schools that you're looking at that may be out of state, because they may or may not cost you more than some of your out of state options. And then make sure you have the support that you need at that college. So I usually talk to students about, do you have any medical needs? Do you have any certain hobbies that you just can't live without? But again, this goes kind of back to self-reflection. What do you need to be successful in college? And make sure the universities on your list can provide that for you, okay? Either on campus or within the community. So just if there's resources you need right now, you're probably going to need them in college too, okay? And some students forget about that. Let's see here. A lot of students are concerned about their major. And what if a student doesn't know what they want to major in? Chat touched on this a little bit. Darren, do you have any other advice you want to add about that?
Yeah, generally speaking, you're going to be asked between now and the time you die, like a billion times what your major is. So don't stress out about it too much. I don't even know what the stat is now, but it's something along the lines of the average student changes their major 4 to 5 times. So don't worry about it too much. I went in undecided, and I think it's honestly a really great way to go because it gives you a little bit of flexibility and kind of a buffer zone where you can try out different courses. I took business, sociology, science, a variety of different things, and then eventually ended on communication and sociology. For me, I ended up picking a career first and then picking majors that fit my career. Again, just kind of like we've said with everything, there's a different route for everybody, and it's just finding what's best for you. So that's why, especially the freshmen and sophomores that have asked questions, now is the time to be exploring different academic interest areas. You've got so much time, you're already so far ahead of so many of your peers. This is the perfect time to take advantage of it. So if you're undecided, don't worry about it. And if you think you know what you want to do, perfect, great. That's great too. So I think just don't stress out about it as much as the movies make it out to be, or everyone else, asking you a bajillion times. It'll all work out.
Good advice. Hopefully that calms the fears of the students listening tonight. 2 more questions that came in via the chat that we can address. One is, what is the difference between college and university? I don't really know the answer to that. A lot of times it's our choice of name. I don't really have a good definition for that. If anybody else does, you're welcome to add to it.
Yeah, from my experience, I'm with you, Jamie. I think you can kind of have schools like Boston College who really don't fit what I'm about to say, but typically colleges are smaller in size and they typically have a top priority of undergraduate education, whereas a university is typically larger, doesn't have to be again. So I'm painting with a very broad paintbrush. I probably shouldn't in all cases, but they're also going to have undergraduate and graduate focus on campus as well. So as a rule, that's where we would divide it. But again, you're going to find outliers and those definitions from, Rockhurst College in Kansas City changing to Rockhurst University, and not a whole lot changed about them. So again, that's a great question. And historically, there is some data with that, but it's kind of murky now when you talk to universities and colleges.
Thank you.
I think, I was just going to add, I think one other difference between the two, again, used to be, it's not as much anymore, is that a college didn't have those defined, the College of Liberal Arts, the College of Business. Universities have that established, plus all the master's programs, where a lot of times on the college, like a college side, it's less so organized, and you've just got your general majors and everything else. Again, that's changed as time has gone on, but that was also like when my alma mater changed, that was a big definition of what happened.
Another question is, does the A+ program only support in-state colleges that you apply to? So for the most part, yes, it's a Missouri program. So it applies to colleges and universities in Missouri. So many of the out-of-state universities, we don't have anything comparable or compatible to offer you. It's an in-state program. Okay, we have a few more questions that we are going to answer that we hear often, but at the same time, and Darren, if you want to chime in, did you want to add something to that?
No, sorry, I was just marking it off our list. The big thing I was going to say is every like 4-year school has a different amount that they're going to offer. So don't assume that one school is going to offer you the same as another school for A+.
Perfect. We have a few more questions that we're going to answer for you. However, if you have a burning question that you haven't shared with us in the Q&A, please feel free to do so at this time. So something that we've heard a lot over the last year is many colleges have announced that they're test optional, test flexible, test blind. What does that mean? And how does a student know when it's in their best interest to submit an ACT or SAT or to withhold it? So it gets kind of tricky. Aaron, can you share some advice on that topic?
Oh, Miss Jamie, there's a lot to unpack here, right? Ooh, this is probably giving me more gray hair this year and had my hair fall out at a faster rate from going through test optional for the first time. So you've heard all of us tonight come up with a common theme of it's really going to depend on the universities that you're interested in. So that's going to be my overarching umbrella statement, is you really need to work with the institutes that you are thinking that you are going to go through this process with. You need to know also that this situation, the college planning process, is never Jamie and the University of Memphis versus the students, or Aaron and the University of Missouri versus the students. We want it to be in your best interest that you are going to be successful on our campus, and we want to give you the tools available to help you figure out if you are going to be a good fit for our campus or not. So I really encourage you, you're going to see new data start rolling onto universities' websites this summer when you start seeing acceptance rates for students who are applying test optional. You're still going to see that traditional middle 50% of ACT. You're going to see the average GPA. And I really encourage you to really put yourself up against that profile. If you see that you have tested, and number one, I will go on record to be the first of the four of us as saying, please test me, get the opportunity to, if you can do it safely. If nothing else, it's a good insurance policy. It's a good tool in your resource belt. You don't have to use that test score, but I really encourage you to test when you get the opportunity to. Because when you have that test score, you can then look at your profile versus the university's profile. If you really have a target school that's your number one option, but you're quite a bit lower on that ACT or SAT score, you probably don't want to use that when you're applying to that school. You probably want to go test optional. You also want to figure out things like, if you apply test optional and you get denied, can you submit a test score down the road to enhance your application as well? Are there special programs on campus like honors colleges, like certain scholarships that require a test score? So these are all really excellent questions you should ask the reps you're working with. I will tell you, I have visited with high school juniors from at least 75 high schools this spring here in Kansas City, and I've given them all the same advice: test before you apply, check in with me, and let's go over your application as far as your test score, your GPA, your essay, your resume, I want to help a student get admitted to Mizzou. That's really what I want to do. So I'm here to help those students, and I don't want them to go through this blindly and then be surprised. And so really reach out to the Office of Admissions, the reps you work with, because we really do want to see you succeed and get to your best fit, whatever that best fit may be.
I agree. We want to give you good news. So be very open with us. Tell us what your cumulative GPA is. Tell us what your test score is, and we can give you good advice. So don't be shy about that. Okay, another question is, what is the ideal college planning timeline for a current junior? Chat, can you help us with that one?
I'll try. I would say that first and foremost, you're doing the right thing right now because you're attending MOACAC sessions and sign up for other informational sessions and college fairs. Also visit with your high school counselor or your college advisor. He or she knows you, can give you some insight in some good schools that are a good academic fit and a good fit in other ways based upon your interest. And please keep your parents in the loop. Have a dialogue about the college process, some schools you're thinking about. I know that there are families that are hesitant to talk about finances, but that's really, really important. In public schools, I know that most public school students did take the ACT a couple of weeks ago. My advice is to try to get an ACT in if you're a private school student or a public school student, another ACT or SAT sometime this summer, June or July, and retake the ACT or SAT possibly again in the fall. And also keep your grades up because just what Jamie said, you need to end your sixth semester, the end of this junior year with a bang, because it's the last set of grades that colleges are going to see before they actually get your application. So yeah, your high school counselor's there to help you.
Yes, I have a daughter who's a junior, so we are going through this at the same time. All of you watching us, I'm going through it with you, but we're trying to compare, narrow down, what do we like, what don't we like, and really just finish this junior year strong so you can be proud of it as you're getting ready to apply to these colleges. So I'm gonna answer one more question, and then we're going to share some resources with you too. Let's see here. So one question I get a lot right now is in response to COVID, how are universities accommodating students and guests? And are we giving tours? And are we having open house programs? And how in the world are you going to experience these colleges to know if you like them or not? So I have a little advice for you. We want to keep you safe, first and foremost. So a lot of universities, we each have our own policies, but many of us are offering campus tours, but they're a little bit smaller. Rather than 20 to 30, they may be more like 10 to 12. Many of us are still requiring you to maybe wear a mask. Rather than bringing the whole family, we may let you bring one guest on a tour. So we do want you to come and check us out, but it's not quite back to normal. The other thing is some campuses have resumed in-class classrooms, but many of us haven't. Like for my university, we're only at 20%. So if you come and you walk around, is it going to give you a good feel as to what classes will be like in campus in the fall? No, not yet, but we're getting there. And so have patience with us, but please go ahead and start doing your college search. If you are comfortable taking tours or attending an event that you're invited to, please go ahead. But this may be one of those years where you do take a second visit. Once things are kind of back to normal in the fall. And each one of us on our website, we're continually updating it so students know what to anticipate. What does the campus look and feel like? What will it be like in September? I mean, there's constantly updates. So I know you're in this unique group, but hang in there with us, and we are doing our very best to keep you safe and give you the most accurate information and representation that we can. Okay. All right, well, with that, I want to go ahead and go to the next slide. And we want to finish by sharing some great resources with you that we think you will find valuable. Chat, if you would start by sharing some, and then each of us will share one. I think you're on mute still. Can you?
Thank you. I didn't want to do that. I knew I would do that, but I didn't want to do that. I really like the Barron's Profiles of American Colleges. It's like the Webster Dictionary for colleges. You can get all kinds of information. I really use the Book of Majors by the College Board quite often. You have different majors listed by state and schools by alphabetical order. And I also love the FIS Guide to Colleges. And it gives you kind of an insider's perspective of what's going on and what's popular at a college and a tradition. So it's from the student's perspective.
And then I'll take the next one. So college counselors and admission counselors, it's literally our job to help you. So make sure you use us. That's what we're here for. And I know not every high school has a college counselor specific, but whether it's your school counselor or whatever their title is, make sure you're utilizing them because they oftentimes have resources that you may not be aware of. And we are a fantastic contact for your admission counselors, like Jamie and Aaron. And we know oftentimes most of the reps in a lot of the schools that visit because we get schools that come so often. And we are the ones that know this information the best, hopefully. And the admission reps specifically, if you have a question about University of Memphis or University of Mizzou, why not go to your admission counselor who that's what they train for all year, basically, that they get all these updates to give that information to you. So make sure you're utilizing the tools that are available to you and building those personal relationships. Also, some schools use demonstrated interest, and talking with those admission reps can kind of give you that extra bump up in the admissions process.
Okay, my recommendation is a mouthful. U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics Occupational Outlook Handbook. I know it's a mouthful, but if you enter that into a Google search, you'll find it. I love this. This website tells you about various professions, and then based on that profession, what degree you need, how many years. There's little videos that tell you about the job. It gives you anticipated pay, what the job outlook is for each state. I use this a lot in presentations. I told you I have a daughter junior. We look through this, and this really helped a student get to see various professions in a quick and easy manner. So if you haven't checked this out, look at it. It really helps you just kind of see some occupations that go with these college majors. So.
Yeah, and I will end with the MOACAC virtual fairs. I think one of the really cool things, again, about technology is it's bringing universities to you that you may not get experience with in your school. So I've had the opportunity to interact with schools like Hope College in Michigan and Pepperdine out in Malibu and some really great places I've never experienced. And so we know those things are coming to you with those virtual fairs. So really take advantage of them because I think they're really good resources for you. There was a question came in. I think Darren did answer it about the transfer credit. Okay. Good deal. I was going to answer that if it wasn't answered. But again, just ending, I think the virtual fairs, I think at the beginning, it was our only option. So we all dreaded it. I know you guys are zoomed out as students. We're zoomed out too. We're all zoomed out, but this is our option now. And so I think we really, again, take advantage of the opportunity to kind of pull back that curtain and let you see kind of behind the scenes at our universities through students and faculty and all those. So take advantage of the virtual fairs when you get the chance.
Well, we started this session by saying some days are going to be exciting and some days are going to be overwhelming. Please know that you have so many great resources to assist you. I hope we've made that very clear. You're not in this alone, and we want to help you so that you feel comfortable with your college decision. Panel, any last parting words of wisdom that you want to share?
I think I'll end by saying that, you know, in your search for that perfect college, and remember, it's not necessarily where you go, but what you do with what you got once you get there. So good luck in the process.
And I would just simply say, just make sure this is individual to you. Your search should be very different from the friend to your left and the friend to your right. It's all about you. You're in the spotlight here, so make this about you.
Yeah, and thank you for, it was just me and her today, so thank you. And then also I would just say, it can be a very overwhelming process. Just dive in. I think once you get started, everything takes care of itself. It's a very, it follows the same trajectory for most everyone. So just dive in, it'll work itself out.
All great information shared. Thank you so much to each of you, to our panelists. We really appreciate it. And again, all great information shared. Thank you to each of you for joining us. As we close, there will be a very quick 4-question survey that will appear on your browser. If you don't mind taking a moment to fill that out for us, your feedback will be really helpful. This is one of many sessions happening, and so feel free to sign up for more sessions as part of the Missouri Virtual College Fair. Again, sign up for where you sign up for this one. And lastly, this recording will be available a week from today at strivescan.com/Missouri. Again, thank you all and have a great night.
Right.